What's up guys, MikeCoco back here, bringing you guys another Phase Drift tutorial. Today for the Dexterity Elemental Stone, which is the Phase Drift where the monsters are immune to physical attacks, meaning that you have to use magic users. Now this is the most difficult Phase Drift out of all of them because magic users are inherently very weak at tanking. So this means that you will need quite a bit of armor on your magic users. So I'm just gonna show you guys the formation first, and I'm running a slightly different setup. So I'm running my 3 tanks, and as you can see, I'm not using Nikki anymore because I need my tanks to survive. You definitely want to have these guys survive, so you want to pick your 3 strongest tanks, okay? And then I'm using staff main as I always do. Claire, who is not legendary, so if you have a rank 6 Claire, you can still use her, and a legendary Ereina with the summon that deals damage. If you don't have if you have the normal Ereina without the costume, I don't think this is doable. With at least with this attack power, because the summon doesn't deal any damage, while Ereina summon with the costume will deal damage. So Claire does magic damage with her skill, so her normal attack will still deal like ones and misses. So you want to use basically these hero skills. And the reason why I set them up in this formation is because the mobs are all spear users, meaning that if I had anyone here or here, these spears would be able to hit Claire and staff main, and they would eventually die because they have very low defense. So you definitely want to have at least 3 tanks, or at least some sort of barrier between your front line and your back line, or else your back line will die unless they're very well geared. So this is the strategy I'm using, is because Ereina's summon, when it dies, I believe it also gains fury for your team. So you can heal, and summon deals damage for you, and Ereina can deal damage by herself. So combined together, I think Ereina is much better for this phase drift rather than Jury. It's one of those weird moments where Ereina is actually better. Um, if you have like those magic dot active inscriptions, you should definitely use that, like the one that just happened there. I believe it deals magic damage, um, but actually I'm not sure. I think I don't remember the actual inscription, but it might only deal like, let's say X% of magic damage, and if you only deal 1 damage from normal attack, then I don't think the magic damage will do much. So basically what you want to do is get the summon out, and the summon can also charm or bewitch, which is very useful. So holy crap, as you saw, my tank almost died. Actually have no idea why they targeted her. Usually they target the summon, um, but that should be fine for now. So basically the first 2 rounds you just want to survive. If you lose any of your heroes on the first 2 rounds, I pretty much think you should restart and try again, because it will be very difficult, because you have 3 magic heroes that actually only do damage, and then the other 3 deal 0 damage, and if the tank dies, then one of your magic users will be exposed. If your magic user dies, then you basically lost a third of your DPS, so it's not a good look. So again, that magic, I actually have no idea if that magic dot is useful. So yeah, I'm hitting 1s and 0s just because I want to get the defense buff, so EK won't just randomly die again. And I still have no idea why they're focusing on EK so much. They should really be focusing on the summon, but hopefully the summon can get rid of it. Okay. So basically on the first 2 rounds you just want to clear them. It doesn't matter how you get them cleared, but you just want to get them cleared. So you want to use their skills as much as possible. My staff main is actually very weak because I don't bother what would you say? I don't bother gearing my mains anymore. Well, because I use staff main, it doesn't really matter what her damage does because it's going to be very poor. And actually, in this scenario, I'm not running the legendary ring. on my staff main because I typically use a cleanse ring, but you can totally switch to the cleanse or the legendary ring because in this phase rift, none of the enemies, I don't think they stun or charm, so you don't really need a cleanse at all. So as you saw there, the summon died, and I'm basically at max fury. And the way that works is that the summon deals some damage, and it may heal. It will heal, and then it may charm. And then when it dies, it gains fury for your team. Now, as you can see, I only have one fury thief, and a lot of the times you're starved for fury. So what happens is that every time you take some damage to your tanks, you draw the summon. So you use 300 fury to summon the summon, and the summon will heal. And after the summon heals, it'll probably die next turn due to like the spear attacks. So then you gain fury because whenever a hero on your team dies, you gain fury. So basically, the summon acts as like it covers every single situation. It does damage, it heals, and it draws fury for you. So there's absolutely no reason not to use it. Oh crap! As I said that, I forgot to summon it, but I think we should be okay. We won't need to heal just yet. Yeah, okay. So yeah, definitely don't make that mistake I did. You definitely always want to summon out. And actually, let's see if I can take them out with this. Okay, they're probably still going to be alive. So as you can see, when the melee users attack, they usually hit misses or ones. If they hit once, that means you gain some fury. If it hits a miss, then you gain 0 fury. So that's just like a little way to figure out if you're actually gaining any fury or not. And remember that Claire's normal skill does not deal any magic damage. So even though it looks like very little, you have to use her skill to clear it. So now we're going into the boss round, and the boss round is kind of difficult because Ridderin, the boss, will heal at half HP. So when he deal half damage, he'll regain all his HP, and like all the other phase rifts, he will respawn all he'll spawn like more mobs around him. So what you want to do is if you want to gear your tanks enough so that they can survive Ridderin's normal attack. And you want to focus on getting rid of these mobs first, before he summons additional mobs. So that is exactly what I'm going to do. Let's see if we can clear it like that. Probably can't. Okay, so that mob's going to die. And I'm just going to bewitch some of the mobs. So you definitely want to clear the mobs as soon as possible. And so here, hopefully, Anna doesn't die. Okay, so she doesn't die. And we took some damage from the mobs, which is perfectly fine. But remember, these guys have to have a lot of HP and defense. My Anak and Ridderin are basically capped at HP and defense. I think it's like 60 defense and 100k HP. So that's the reason why they're not dying. If they're not at that number, then you should probably try to get them at that number, or else move to a lower phase rift level. And you want to debuff as much as possible. This is like a very common theme of debuffing and just removing mobs. So hopefully no one dies. Okay, yeah. So that's basically it. You just want to rinse and repeat. It takes a while, but it does work. I actually just tried this because I've been using a different method. I was using Jiri before, and I would just keep dying. So I'm like, you know what? Let's try using Ereina, see what works. Because I remember when Phase Rift was first released, I distinctly remember me saying that you guys should use Ereina. And guess what? I didn't follow my own advice. I totally forgot about it. And the Bewitch is gonna wear off soon, which is kind of bad, but hopefully with just the one attack debuff we can survive. Okay, yeah, so that almost worked. Actually, I'm really surprised he's not dealing any damage at all. So yeah, it's kind of slow, or it is really slow, but it works, so that's, I think, what matters. So he's close to almost half HP, and you want to take note of when he actually hits half HP, because um, he'll spawn more mobs. So at this point, I think I'm just gonna skip my turn because I don't want to deal any more damage to Ritterin. And hopefully the dots do not cause him to spawn. Oh crap, he spawned. Okay, that's not good. Alright, so EK just died and my staff main just died. So you don't want that to happen. But I think we can still pull it off. So obviously summon the summon, and the first step is to always get rid of these mobs first. Because if your tanks can survive Ritterin's attack with just an attack debuff, then it works pretty well. So gonna or we already have 2 attack debuffs on Ritterin, so I'm just gonna get rid of these mobs as much as possible. And at this point you can SOS another magic user, but I want to see if we can do it without, because I know a lot of you don't have, or I don't know if a lot of you have a lot of magic users or not, but try to make this as accessible to everyone. So even like those without a lot of magic users, should be able to do this, I think. So attack debuff. You can probably get a charm here, and just so they're slightly less annoying. And hopefully no one dies. We really gotta clear these mobs soon, because as you can see, they're actually dealing quite a bit of damage. They're not killing my tanks, but they're definitely close. So yeah, so as soon as we can get rid of those mobs, that's very good. Now, of course, this entire strategy hinges on the fact that your tanks can survive Ritterin, except when it crits. So if it crits, that's when you want to save your SOS. Um, so first things first, I want to get rid of some of these guys. I think my Claire will be able to one-shot these mobs with the fire. Hopefully. Okay, so yeah. And at this point, there's not much to do. You just gotta do it really, really slow. Now there are no mobs. I don't think Ritterin will be able to kill my tanks unless he crits again, which is absolutely not fair. If he crits, then I just keep redoing it. That's the only advice I have. So now we can bewitch and just keep repeating, rinse and repeat. It's like a very common thing for phase rift if you're underpowered, is just to do something small and just keep rinse and repeating it until it works again. And we don't need to crit debuff or bewitch anymore. You just need to constantly attack. At this point, yes, you can totally SOS and other magic users to just speed up this process and to avoid the chance of getting killed. And it would work better if your tanks have HP recovery on your ring. So if you have that, I would recommend just switching it to HP recovery. Just for this phase rift specifically. Oh, I can't talk. Because having, as I said before, none of the mobs or bosses debuff or charm or stun, so there really isn't a point to using cleanse rings. The only reason I have them on is because I personally think cleanse rings are most useful for general use. Like in all game modes, I prefer cleanse rings because they're like, they don't do any harm, so they will always be useful. But the HP recovery one is definitely more useful in this battle. And okay, he's still bewitch immune, so just deal damage, and Claire should almost finish him off. Remember, this is a rank 6 Claire, so it's totally doable without a legendary Claire. And yeah, so basically, if we can survive crits. It's just that I mean, we can't survive crits. If he does crit, then we're kind of screwed. But otherwise, as long as Ritterin just hits with normal attacks while debuffed, then we should have no problems. And that is how you can clear what is this, Dexterity Elemental Stone on 5-star mode. So yeah, this is actually the hardest phase rift, and I would recommend at least like getting a decent amount of magic users that you can like SOS in, or you can sub in. I'm not sure what you would do if you have Ereina without the costume, um, because the summon is actually very useful. Otherwise, maybe you have to use Jiri and I suppose Dimitra maybe. Um, I'm not sure, but this is actually the first time I've cleared Dexterity Elemental Stone on 5-star rank. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this tutorial, guys. Peace.